Have you ever been told that losing fat is simply a matter of eating less and moving more? That your body is a stubborn machine that must be forced, restricted, or punished into change? Tonight, I invite you to set aside that old narrative because emerging science reveals something far more hopeful, far more empowering. Your body is not your enemy. It is a responsive, intelligent system constantly listening to the signals you send, especially through food. Every bite you take is more than calories. It is information. It is instruction. It is a biochemical message that can either tell your body to store fat or to release it, to slow down metabolism or to ignite it. And the extraordinary truth is this: there are foods that speak the language of fat burning fluently. Foods that can gently nudge your metabolism awake, calm hormonal chaos, and reawaken pathways that evolution designed to keep us lean, energetic, and resilient. Imagine, for a moment, that inside you lives a network of microscopic allies, cells, enzymes, microbes, waiting for the right nourishment to spring into action. They are ready to convert stored fat into energy, to reduce cravings, to balance blood sugar, to extinguish silent inflammation that locks fat in place. They are ready, but only if you give them the signals they recognize. The right compounds, the right fibers, the right natural chemicals encoded in whole, vibrant foods. What if fat loss were not about deprivation but activation? Not about willpower alone, but about biological cooperation? What if the path forward were not harsher discipline, but deeper nourishment? Because when you begin to eat in a way that aligns with your body's ancient metabolic design, something remarkable happens. Resistance softens, energy rises, appetite steadies, and the body begins to do what it was always meant to do: burn fat efficiently and sustainably. This is not a fad, not a trick, not a temporary diet. It is a shift in understanding, a recognition that your plate can become a powerful metabolic switchboard. And once you learn which foods flip the right switches, you move from fighting your body to partnering with it, from frustration to fascination, from restriction to renewal. So tonight, let us explore how food can become instruction, how nourishment can become transformation, and how the simple act of choosing what to eat can begin to reprogram your body toward health, vitality, and lasting fat loss. Because the power to change your metabolism is not locked in a pill, a program, or a punishment. It is waiting quietly, patiently on your next forkful. When we think about food, most of us have been taught to see it through a narrow lens: calories in, calories out, numbers on labels, portions on plates, restrictions, substitutions, trade-offs. But this view, while simple, is incomplete. Because food is not merely energy, it is biological information. It is a stream of molecular signals that your body reads, interprets, and responds to every single moment you are alive. Inside you, trillions of cells are constantly sensing their environment. They are listening for chemical cues that tell them whether to store energy or release it, to build fat or burn it, to accelerate metabolism or conserve resources. And those cues come largely from what you eat: proteins, fibers, polyphenols, healthy fats, micronutrients. Each of these is not just nourishment but instruction. They bind to receptors, activate genes, influence hormones, and guide metabolic pathways with exquisite precision. Consider this: your body evolved in a world where food was seasonal, diverse, and unprocessed. Plants carried defensive compounds that, when eaten, triggered beneficial stress responses in our cells. Fibers fed microbial communities that produced metabolites guiding fat metabolism. Natural fats signaled satiety and metabolic stability. In that environment, the human body developed elegant systems for balancing energy, storing when necessary, releasing when appropriate, and maintaining metabolic flexibility. But modern eating patterns often send very different messages. Highly refined foods deliver dense energy stripped of signaling compounds. Sugars surge quickly, provoking hormonal swings that encourage fat storage. Lack of fiber starves beneficial microbes. Chronic excess without micronutrient diversity confuses metabolic regulation. The result is not simply too many calories, but distorted biological messaging. Signals that push the body towards storage, inflammation, and resistance to fat release. Here is where the idea of food as information becomes transformative. Because when you choose foods rich in natural bioactive compounds, whole plants, intact fibers, healthy fats, phytonutrient-dense ingredients, you begin to restore the signals your metabolism understands. Certain compounds activate enzymes that mobilize stored fat. Others improve insulin sensitivity so nutrients are directed toward energy use rather than storage. Some calm inflammatory pathways that otherwise trap fat cells in expansion mode. Many nourish gut microbes that produce short-chain fatty acids known to enhance fat oxidation and appetite regulation. This is not magic, it is molecular conversation. Your meal becomes a message. Energy is abundant but balanced. Inflammation is low. Fuel can be released safely. Metabolism can run freely. And when these messages arrive consistently, the body adapts. It shifts from defensive conservation to confident utilization, from storage priority to burning capability, from metabolic rigidity to flexibility. Perhaps the most empowering realization is this: you do not need to force your body to burn fat. You need to communicate with it, to provide the biochemical language that says clearly and repeatedly that conditions are right for release. That nourishment is present. That stability exists. That balance has returned. So the plate before you is not a battlefield of discipline. It is a control panel of metabolic signaling. Each ingredient a code, each meal a message. And when those messages align with your biology, fat burning ceases to be a struggle and becomes a natural expression of a body finally receiving the information it was designed to follow. If food is information, then certain foods carry messages of extraordinary clarity, messages that tell the body not merely that energy is present, but that energy can be used. That storage is no longer urgent, that the metabolic engine can shift gears from preservation to expenditure. And this is where the second truth emerges. There are natural foods that actively stimulate metabolism, harmonize hormones, and guide the body away from fat storage toward fat utilization. Your metabolism is not a single switch, it is an orchestra. Hormones, enzymes, mitochondria, and neural signals must move in synchrony. When they do, fat can be released from adipose tissue, transported into cells, and burned efficiently for fuel. But when even one section falls out of tune, when insulin stays elevated, when satiety signals are blunted, when energy-sensing pathways are suppressed, the body defaults to conservation. It stores. It resists release. It slows. Certain foods, however, act like conductors restoring rhythm. Take those rich in natural fibers and resistant starches. As they reach the gut, they nourish beneficial microbes that produce metabolites known to improve insulin sensitivity and increase fat oxidation. Blood sugar rises more gradually, insulin signals become more measured, and cells regain the ability to access stored fuel. Instead of trapping energy, the body begins to circulate it. Then there are foods abundant in plant polyphenols, the subtle compounds that give plants their color, bitterness, and resilience. These molecules interact directly with metabolic pathways inside our cells. They activate enzymes involved in fat breakdown, stimulate mitochondrial function, and enhance what scientists call metabolic flexibility, the ability to switch between burning carbohydrates and fats depending on need. In practical terms, this means your body becomes more willing to draw from its stored reserves. Healthy natural fats play their role as well. Unlike refined fats paired with excess sugars, whole food sources of beneficial fats arrive with micronutrients and signaling compounds that stabilize appetite hormones. They promote satiety, reduce erratic cravings, and extend the time between meals without stress. When hunger patterns stabilize, insulin exposure decreases, and the body senses a steady energy environment rather than one of rapid spikes and drops. Stability invites utilization. Even certain natural thermogenic compounds, found in spices, herbs, and whole foods gently increase energy expenditure. Not dramatically, not artificially, but enough to nudge metabolic rate upward and encourage the use of circulating fuels. Combined with improved hormonal balance, this creates conditions in which stored fat is more likely to be accessed. What is remarkable is that these effects are not harsh or forced. They are regulatory. They do not push the body beyond its design, they restore it to it. Hormones begin to pulse rather than surge. Energy sensors begin to detect abundance rather than scarcity. Appetite signals become clearer. And gradually, almost quietly, the metabolic set point shifts. This is why the conversation about fat loss must move beyond restriction alone. Because deprivation without signaling still leaves the body uncertain. It may conserve rather than release, but nourishment that carries the right biochemical cues tells a different story. Energy is steady, nutrients are sufficient, balance is safe. Under those conditions, the body becomes willing to part with stored fuel. So when we speak of foods that stimulate metabolism and regulate hormones, we are not describing exotic interventions. We are describing alignment, meals that synchronize internal systems so that burning fat becomes not a forced outcome, but a coordinated physiological response. A body in tune does not cling to excess. It uses what it has been storing, because the signals it now receives finally say, you can. Deep within you exists an ecosystem so vast, so intricate, that it rivals a rainforest in complexity. Trillions of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, and other microscopic life inhabit your digestive tract, forming what we call the gut microbiome. For years, it was thought of merely as a passive passenger in digestion. But science has revealed something astonishing. This inner community acts as a metabolic command center, influencing how you store fat, how you burn it, how hungry you feel, and how efficiently your body uses energy. And the most powerful force shaping this ecosystem is the food you choose to eat. Your gut microbes are not silent. They are chemically active, producing metabolites that travel throughout your body, communicating with organs, hormones, and even your brain. Some of these compounds enhance insulin sensitivity, allowing cells to access fuel instead of storing it. Others regulate appetite signals, helping you feel satisfied with appropriate amounts of food. Still others directly influence fat metabolism, encouraging the breakdown of stored lipids and increasing energy expenditure. In essence, your microbiome helps decide whether energy is conserved or consumed. But like any ecosystem, its composition depends on nourishment. Different foods feed different microbial populations. Diets dominated by refined sugars, low fiber, and ultra-processed ingredients tend to favor microbial communities associated with inflammation, metabolic dysfunction, and increased fat storage. These microbes extract more energy from food, promote insulin resistance, and generate inflammatory signals that encourage adipose tissue expansion. The body, receiving these chemical messages, shifts towards storage mode. In contrast, when you eat foods rich in diverse fibers, polyphenols, and natural plant compounds, you nourish microbial species linked to metabolic health. These beneficial microbes ferment fibers into short-chain fatty acids, molecules known to improve insulin sensitivity, reduce inflammation, and enhance fat oxidation. They strengthen the gut barrier, preventing inflammatory compounds from entering circulation. They communicate with the liver and adipose tissue, signaling that fuel can be released and utilized. Gradually, the metabolic environment changes. What makes this relationship extraordinary is its responsiveness. The microbiome can shift within days of dietary change. New foods begin feeding new microbial communities, and those communities begin producing new metabolic signals. It is as though your internal chemistry can be reorchestrated simply by altering what reaches your gut. Over time, these shifts can influence body composition, energy regulation, and even cravings, because microbes also interact with neural pathways that shape food preferences. Think of your microbiome as a council of advisors constantly whispering instructions to your metabolism. If their voices favor storage, fat accumulates. If they favor utilization, fat is released, and you through diet determine which voices grow louder. Each meal is not only feeding you, it is feeding them. And in turn, they guide how your body handles energy. This understanding reframes fat loss at its core. It is not solely a battle of willpower or caloric arithmetic. It is ecological management, cultivating an internal environment that naturally supports metabolic flexibility and fat burning. When beneficial microbes flourish, inflammation falls, hormones stabilize, and energy pathways reopen. The body begins to access its stored reserves not under duress, but under biochemical encouragement. So the path to a metabolism that burns fat efficiently may begin not with forcing change from the outside, but with nurturing change from within, feeding the microscopic allies whose chemistry becomes your chemistry, whose signals become your signals, and whose balance can quietly, powerfully reshape the way your body uses energy. And so, as we come to the close of this journey together, a new picture of fat loss emerges, one that is quieter, wiser, and far more compassionate than the narratives many of us have carried. We began by questioning the old belief that the body must be battled into change, that we discovered instead that it is a system of profound intelligence, constantly listening, constantly adapting, constantly seeking balance. Not an adversary to defeat, but a partner waiting to be understood. We have seen that food is not merely fuel but information, signals that can awaken or silence the very pathways that govern fat storage and fat burning. We have explored how certain natural foods restore metabolic rhythm, how the gut microbiome becomes an internal ally when nourished properly, and how calming hidden inflammation unlocks the body's willingness to release stored energy. Each insight leads to the same realization: sustainable fat loss is not imposed from the outside, it arises from restored biology within. Perhaps the most hopeful truth is this: your body already knows how to burn fat efficiently. It always has. The enzymes exist, the pathways exist, the cellular machinery exists. What it needs are the right conditions, the right messages, repeated with consistency and care. When nourishment aligns with design, resistance softens, hunger steadies, energy flows, and what once felt like struggle becomes cooperation. So the invitation moving forward is simple yet profound. Choose foods that communicate balance. Feed the microbes that support you. Calm the inflammation that constrains you. Trust that small, repeated signals shape powerful adaptation. Because transformation does not occur in a single meal or a single day, it unfolds through steady conversation between your choices and your cells. Let this be a shift not only in diet, but in relationship. From control to collaboration. From punishment to nourishment. From chasing weight loss to cultivating metabolic health. When you honor your body's biology, it responds with vitality. When you provide what it recognizes, it releases what it no longer needs. And so, the next time you lift a fork, remember you are not simply eating, you are instructing. You are signaling. You are participating in the elegant dialogue of metabolism that shapes how you feel, how you function, and how your body carries energy. Within that dialogue lies the quiet power to reprogram, restore, and renew. The path to lasting fat loss was never hidden. It was always present in the language of food, in the wisdom of biology, and in the extraordinary capacity of your body to heal when given the chance.